Hello, everybody. Before we dive into today's episode, first of all, I hope you guys if you have the chance, watch this episode. You can go to Spotify. There's now a video version of the podcast, which I hope is an exciting new evolution for the podcast. So excited for that and excited for you guys to hopefully be able to see this for the first time. Definitely still trying to figure it out. So give me a little bit of, breathing room here as we try to figure out how to do the recording through video. But either way, before we dive into today's episode with Jason Grubb, I wanted to remind you guys of our two sponsors. The first one being Routine. Routine's become a product that I use every day on a daily basis. It's essentially a single serve packet that you tear open, and it helps with my hydration first thing in the morning. What a lot of people don't know is when you sleep, you lose between a pound and a half of water, mainly from expelling vapors, sweating. Each of these packets contains half an organic lemon, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, Himalayan sea salt, all 6 essential electrolytes, and most importantly, no sugar. I just tear one of these packets open, dump it into 20 ounces of water, and we're good to go. Routine, trusted ingredients, made convenient. If you want to give them a chance, give them a shot, go to yourroutine.com and you can use code ShaneWhite30 at checkout for 30% off your first order. Today's episode is also brought to you by Elite Sweets. Elite Sweets is redefining the way we think about sweets with their Elite Donuts. The Elite Donut is a better-for-you donut that is packed with 13 grams of protein. They're gluten-free, keto-friendly, and contain only 1 gram of sugar. I love these bad boys. They are so good when you just want to have a cheat meal or a cheat snack, but you really know you shouldn't. Elite Sweets is a phenomenal product to put on your shelf. They are launching this fall a shelf-stable version that'll have all the same nutrition breakdowns. They're going to be phenomenal. You guys are going to find them everywhere before you know it. But for now, you can get yours today at elitedonut.com or on Amazon. Either way, if you use code ShaneWhite30, you'll get 30% off your order. All right, everybody. I'm really pumped today for you guys to all listen to Jason Grubb. He is now a 3 years in a row CrossFit Games champion. And I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody. Thanks. I've actually heard really good things about this.
Yeah, it looks good.
It's supposed to be a lot more user-friendly for podcasts.
That's great.
And then like post-production stuff. Not that I do a lot of that, but
I'm always really curious. I just started using StreamYard because
nice.
I'm wanting to do some more streaming.
Yeah, and
it is nice with a pay a slight upgrade, and I'm able to stream to my Facebook group and YouTube at the same time. It records. It saves the recording as well. So far, so good, but I may have to check this. Does this do streaming, or does it only...
It does do streaming, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. I've heard great things about StreamYard. That was the other one I was considering to do, and then I was like, I'll just give this a whirl for a month.
Yeah.
I started running into the issue of... I was using Zoom, and then I hadn't upgraded, so like my last podcast I did, it cut off at 40 minutes and didn't tell me.
Oh.
And so
I've
I
done
was like,
that.
I need to upgrade myself. That's not professional.
I definitely did that as well.
Well, Jason, thanks for coming on the show, man. I didn't give you a ton of background, but typically what I do is I just roll right into it. And I know I briefly gave you an overview, but first of all, just thanks for coming on the show. I wanted to hear about your story, and before we dive in, I'll definitely tell you, I think I just stumbled across you. I don't even know. Honestly, I'm not even sure what I was looking at or how I stumbled across you. I've been doing CrossFit just out of my garage, like not competitively. For fun, and I thought your story was super cool. To be honest, that was kind of the beginning of me following you, and then obviously I watched you this year at the games, and congratulations on another successful year. And I was like, I got to get this guy on the podcast. He's got such a cool story.
Thank you. The games went really well this year. There's never a guarantee that I'll qualify for the games, let alone do well at the games or get up on the podium. I've got a decent track record now at the games, which is good. It's great for confidence, but it puts a big target on my back. So the guys, everyone's always getting better. And at 46 right now, I'm 46. I just got to keep working. I like this. I like this. I love the competitive nature of this. So I'll just continue to try to stay healthy, try to get better, stronger, fitter, faster. Because no one else is slowing down. So I'll just keep pushing it.
No, it's been crazy. To give you a little background on me, because I think you'll think it's interesting. I didn't know anything about CrossFit. Grew up in Indiana, moved to Chicago. My wife's from here, and started working for a company called RX Bar. And back when I joined, it was right before they got bought out by Kellogg. But at the time, it was interesting because they were at this inflection point. And one of the things early on was just the founders of it, and then a lot of the early team members there. They were all big CrossFit enthusiasts in that community. So I quickly learned what it was. Built my own garage setup, and it's something now I'm addicted to. But that was when I first started even watching it, like the games, and just in general taking part in the open. So it's been really cool. It's been wild, even I think so that was 2017. So it's in 5 years just watching all of you guys, different age groups, different years, just how impressive everyone is getting. It's like it's insane how fit everyone seems to be at the games. I mean, they always were, but now if you even look back 5 years, it's incredible.
Well, yeah, and I'm as I was working my way up, I was I wanted to try to qualify for the games in 2017, and I started CrossFit in 2013, and I immediately was in love with it. I loved the training. I couldn't figure out how everyone else was just so fit. But then, when in 2016, 2017, when I was trying to qualify for the games, I could not fathom how incredibly strong and fast and capable these 40 plus dudes were that I was trying to compete against. Like it was, I didn't understand. Like, and now I've been a dominant player for the last 4 years. And try to share my experience and my journey with those that were kind of in my shoes when in 2016, 2017, when I was trying to figure this out. But really, I couldn't believe how fit they were, and they still are.
Yeah.
Every time I arrive at the games and I look around, so our shorts will have a number on them. I'm wearing them, but I can't show you. But the shorts will say, like, my number is 454. That means I'm in the 45-year-old age group, and fourth was my qualifying spot into the games.
Oh,
so I'm wearing last year's shorts.
What that meant.
Yeah, it's what the shorts are all like your qualifying spot. So I am 454 last year. I'm wearing last year's shorts. I was 454 this year. And as you're walking around, you look around, you see like 453, and you're like, ooh, he's going to be tough. 452. Oh, that's that guy. There's 452. 451. You're like, I don't know if I can beat that guy. But every time I go, I look at these guys, and they are massive, strong, capable animals, and I'm absolutely intimidated every year that I go. I don't know if this is going to be the year for me. I don't know. These guys look pretty good.
I wonder if some of that's to your success though. Like I feel like if you came in super confident and you're like, I've done this before, I got this. I'm sure having a little bit of nervousness and just maybe it's just like lack of understanding just how fit you are. Maybe that's to your benefit.
I've got a pretty healthy fear of failure. So it can provide fuel, adrenaline, and a lot of the motivation that goes behind it. So I do think it's helpful, and it also gives me just a nice level head knowing that the games, the competition floor there with 8 events or however many events they give us each year. There are just margins. You're winning by small margins over multiple events, and all of that adds up. You know, every 10 points that someone gains on you by beating you by 1 placement, or every 10 points I gain by beating someone else in a placement, has a dramatic effect. Like this year, for example, event 1, I took 2nd place. That was fine. I was a little bit annoyed. I thought I could win that workout, but I took 2nd. There was no way I was getting 1st. The guy was 20 seconds ahead of me. There's no way. So that's fine.
Okay.
But then the second event was 3 combined totals. It was 5 minutes for max calories on the Concept 2 bike. So you open up with a 5-minute
that's
sprint.
a fun one.
Yeah, and it was,
Yeah.
you're just in agony for 5 minutes. Then you get off that, and immediately you have 3 minutes to establish a 1-rep max weighted pull-up. So we never do that. It was totally foreign, totally unknown. So you're loading on weights, and you're doing math in your head, and you're also trying to like think of what your capacity actually is. So there's that, and then right at the end of that 3 minutes, you have 3 minutes to complete a 1-rep max front squat. So you really only have like 2 or 3 potential efforts on that front squat. So I get through that whole event. I felt like I did really well. I could have gone another extra 2 to 5 pounds on the pull-up, but I ran out of time. I could have done an extra 10 pounds on the front squat, but I also ran out of time. I didn't plan my strategy through that as well as I would have liked. So in retrospect, I was a little frustrated at the time I wasted because I didn't have a clear enough game plan on the floor. And there's just no time. So you're just, it's full panic mode.
How much time did you get before finding out that event until you actually
the event? I mean, we had 18 hours before the event.
It's still not very long. I mean,
it's not long, and you don't have. I mean, you don't have the exact situation in the warm-up area. So really, like I knew, for example, the front squat. I knew I was going to start at 305. I was going to open up at 305 pounds. Okay. I knew I would go for 325 after that, and depending on how that felt, I would probably go for 335, 340, 345, something like that. The challenge is they only have a certain amount of plates on the floor for you to use out there on the competition floor. So you have to do some really fast math. Like I start with 305, which is a blue and a yellow plate, 2 blues and a yellow plate, and a 5. Okay, so really what I should have done after that lift is take off the yellows, put another blue on, so now I've got 3 blues on each side. That's 315 pounds. Now I can stack accordingly anything above that. I didn't do that because I wasn't thinking. And so when I did this lift at 340, I was like, ooh, that was easy. I had no plates to additionally put on. I needed to take plates off in order to get plates on, bigger plates on. And I ran out of time.
You just wasted some time.
It just wastes time. Yeah, if I would have thought, okay, after this lift, I need to peel this off, put this on, and that's something I'll practice in the off season. This little bit of strategy. And the reason the whole thing annoyed me was that I got 4th place in that event by 2 pounds. So
wow,
that's cumulative calories. We were in the 110, 120 calories on the bike erg. I'm pointing to my bike erg is literally right behind me. And the weighted pull-up, we're all over 100 pounds. And on the front squats, we're over, most of us are over 315, 330, something like that. And so I missed 3rd place by 2 pounds, which is an easy extra pull-up. A 2.5 pound plate on that pull-up gets me that.
Because it was all ran out of time. The same. They were all, weight was weight. Okay, got it.
Yes, so I, that cost me 10 points. Those 2 pounds, that cost me 10. And if 10 points was the difference between me and like 1st place or 2nd place, I'd lose my mind for an entire 365 days until next year at the games. But thankfully that didn't come into play. But those are those little things where like the margin for error, 2 pounds out of a score that is in the 600s, 2 pounds is a difference between placements. And that stuff like that happens the entire games weekend for masters athletes, for individual athletes. There's just not that much separation between you and your competition. You cannot blow any event whatsoever. So I take all that very seriously when I'm there. Every single event is its own thing. Like I can't even focus on the event 6 when I'm working on event 5 because it takes 1,000% of my bandwidth and concentration and focus and visualization. I do all of these things to try to perform perfectly given my capacity and my abilities in that event. And when that's done, come hell or high water, I don't care what happens. I'm gonna kill myself to get to the finish line. Yeah. Greg Glassman said about CrossFitters, men will die for points. This is just how CrossFit is built. We will die for points. We do it in all sports. We kill ourselves for an extra point. And every event is like that.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, no, that's wild when you think about watching, like as a spectator, watching all of the different events. I feel like over the years I've gotten a better understanding of how things are pacing through the weekend.
Yeah.
But to hear you just walk through that and understand how close you can be on any given event and how much that can throw you off, it's insane.
It's insane. Yeah.
I would love to walk backwards. I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I really wanted to hit on today was understanding a little more of your story of going to 0 to 1, because you've done
Yeah.
a great job on social media for people who, and I'll tag you and everything after
Sure.
this, but for people who want to check out Jason, I thought it was really cool. Your story isn't that, you were necessarily this crazy athlete forever and then you just decided to start doing CrossFit and you've always been this insanely fit individual. Your story was actually, I thought, really interesting to see how someone who maybe wasn't in the best of shape not only gets in good shape through CrossFit, but then becomes incredibly competitive. Would you mind giving everyone just a little
Sure.
bit of background of your
Yeah.
30s and how you got into CrossFit and how you
Yeah.
got from there to here today?
Yeah, the 0 to 1 was the biggest transformation. So I was I in my 30s. Well, I was a gymnast in high school. Not high school, early high school, like junior high, like middle school.
Oh, okay.
I dabbled in gymnastics, and that was just kind of a sport that I enjoyed at the time, which 25 years later was helpful for CrossFit, but there was a nice 20-year gap in there that you're still starting from scratch at 38. It doesn't matter who you are. But when I got into my 20s, I got married young and had 2 kids under the age of 25. I was working, getting my college degree, my master's degree, while working full time, taking care of of a family. And I had a perpetual fear that I was going to end up being obese.
Okay.
That was something that was in my family, kind of genetic. I mean, just looking at all of my relatives, obesity and addiction were big factors in all of them. So for me, one of the addictions was tobacco that I picked up in my late 20s, I guess. I picked up chewing tobacco. I picked it up. That's really, it's as if I caught a disease. No, I chose to try it, and it was stupid because I have a very addictive personality, and I loved it. And then I basically hid chewing tobacco for 12 years of my life. And those mostly men out there that do chew tobacco, you know what I'm talking about when you're talking about you hide it. It's a hiding. It's a hidden thing. It's like a security blanket that no one needs to know about. So that and I drank a good amount of beer, 2-3 beers probably every night for years and years and years. But I was really afraid of being obese, so I would jog. I tried to jog partially for like anxiety, stress relief. I tend to run pretty hot internally. My RPMs run high. So a good run will help me calm down. It'll help me relax afterwards. I also ran as almost an agreement with myself. I go for a 3 to 4 mile jog.
Yeah.
3 or 4 times a week. Throughout my 30s, I mean, there'd be seasons where I'd be doing nothing and seasons where I would be jogging. But it was really like a deal. Like if I jog, I can have pizza for dinner. If I jog, I can eat whatever I want. If I jog, I can keep drinking, 800 calories of beer every night or whatever, 600, 800 calories of beer every night. So I had this cognitive, I knew in my head that eating bags of Doritos, eating pizza multiple times a week, having giant bowls of cereal for breakfast, I knew these weren't optimal, but I thought I could combat them by jogging. And I was probably 37 or 38 when my sister-in-law had told me, she told me, I was divorced at 30, remarried in my middle 30s.
Okay.
And my sister-in-law, my wife was pregnant. My sister-in-law was like, Jason, you would love CrossFit. I think you'd really like it. And it's really literally like over dinner. And multiple times she said this throughout a year. And every time I was like, nah, I didn't know what CrossFit was. I didn't even know what it was, but I didn't need anyone to tell me what to do. I know what I'm doing. Jogging is doing it.
Yeah.
And it was something my dad jogged. My dad jogged every day for most of his life. He's still alive. He doesn't jog now, but he jogged for years and years and years. So just had that embedded in me that jogging is how you do this. And it wasn't doing anything for me. Jogging 3 to 4 miles at like a 10-minute pace is not. You might as well just walk. Walking is actually really healthy. You should just walk for 45 minutes. You're doing the same thing with less pounding on your joints. You might as well just do that. I didn't know any of that stuff at the time, but she kept saying, Jason, I think you would like it. I think you would like it. And I'm like, I don't need anything. And so then one time she's like, hey, look, come join a class with me. You'll get like a free month, and I get like a free month if you join. And I was like, fine. And
okay.
I hate trying new things. I was petrified, honestly. I was really scared and nervous to do something new, to look foolish. It was as if she asked me to come to a dance class, like
Sure, it can be intimidating, right?
It was so intimidating. The anxiety was through the roof. And again, I don't want to look foolish in front of a bunch of people. So I went to this class. Thankfully, there were like 3 people. So anxiety relieved immediately. There was only like 3 people in this little class. And randomly, the workout had handstand push-ups in it. And they were like, well, Jason, this is what you should do. I was like, oh, I can do a handstand. They're like, really? I was like, it was one skill that I could.
From the gymnastics days.
From the gymnastics. Yeah, I could kick up to a handstand, and I could hold a handstand for a little bit of time still. It just kind of retained that. So I kicked up to the handstand, and they thought I was a god. They had never seen anyone walk into a CrossFit gym with no experience and kick up to a handstand. So they thought that was so cool, which then in turn gave me just this little like ego bump, which was really sweet of them. And I liked the class. I liked it. Now, I didn't end up joining that gym. It just, like, logistically, it didn't fit. So, but I did like it, and I did call a CrossFit gym that was a little closer for my schedule, just a little closer to home. And I asked them about their membership. They gave me a free week to try. I went 6 days that week.
Oh, wow.
Loved it.
Dove straight in.
Yeah. That's also not the best strategy. I am kind of an all or nothing kind of person.
Sure. Yeah.
But I did like it, and I jumped in head first. I mean, I injured myself within the first couple of weeks, like pulling a rower like crazy, because there were these other big, thicker, fatter guys than me. I'll just say fat. They were fatter than me.
Yeah.
And they were so fit. They were beating me in these workouts, and I'm fairly competitive. So I'm selling my soul on this little rowing workout. And I bruised a rib. I hit myself with the rower, and it took me out for like a week. But that was the start. It was November of 2013 that I started, and I liked it immediately. I immediately touched the competitive side of me, which I've always been slightly competitive. So this CrossFit gym had, you had an electronic leaderboard, so you would complete your workout and you'd put it in the app, and then it would show up on the screen at the gym or in the app. Like, of all the men in class, I was, or throughout the day, I was 45th out of 50. And
so
that
starting off
was
at the bottom, which is normal.
Yeah, of course it's normal. I have no experience, but it was enough to kick me into gear to get a little better. I was just talking with someone this morning. They asked if I couldn't do a handstand, or if I couldn't do a particular element, would I spend a few weeks working on that one thing to get that particular skill? And my answer to him was like, no. I just went, whatever was the workout of the day, I would work on the skill from that workout for that day, except double unders. Like within like a month or two, I was so annoyed that I couldn't do double unders, which is, you've got a jump rope. It's got to go under your feet twice with every jump. That's a double under. And we never did that in like elementary school. It was the last time I used a jump rope.
Sure.
And I just super frustrated, thick head. I did not want to be the guy in class not able to do double unders. So for probably 3 or 4 weeks after every class, I spent probably a half hour working on double unders. There's a little workout called Flight Simulator where you do 5 double unders, stop, then 10, unbroken, then 15, then 20, all the way up to 50, and then back down 45, 40, 35, 30. But the trick with this workout is if you trip on the 19th rep of your set of 20, you cannot proceed. You have to do.
I've done this before. Yeah,
it's awful. I remember the first time I did it. I mean, it's 20, 30, 40 minutes for some people. Because it's very frustrating, but I did Flight Simulator after class every day for probably 2 or 3 months until I could do that entire up to 50 and back in like 7 minutes or something ridiculous.
Wow. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was just one of those things where like, I have to figure this out. I have to. And I mean, that's come in handy. Like I'm good at double unders now and they're second nature and they're restful to me now. But, that was that journey. And in that first year, to continue that just a little bit. I mean, I started in November. By that following summer, I loved it. And I started to see changes in my body. I'd love to say that, I started CrossFit because my son was born in my 9-year-old. He's 9 now. Yeah, he is 9 now. So he was born. So I'm just coming up on my 9th year in CrossFit.
Oh, wow. That's cool. There you go. It's easy to remember.
It is easy to remember. I started 3 months after he was born. Okay. But I was concerned at the time that I wasn't super healthy and that I've got this new little guy. I've got to be healthy and around for a lot longer, like way more than 20, 30 years. I want to be a healthy dad for this kid. I didn't know really how to do it. And it wasn't until I was kind of in CrossFit for a few months when my body started to change. I had shoulders all of a sudden. I could start to see some abs coming back from like, I had abs when I was a teenager, but that was sort of coming back. I remember thinking like, well, this is a really cool thing. Yeah. I really like this. And by the following summer, I was like, I want to open a gym. I want to open a CrossFit gym. I think I want to help other people do this. And I did. Within 6 months. So by the end of 2014, I had signed a lease and opened a gym in 2015.
Oh, wow. You straight up dove into this. Love it.
100%. Like, it wasn't enough just to do it.
It wasn't enough
to make
just to
this
do it. You're like, I'm going to open
my profession.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's my profession. And
so did you start doing that full time? Like, was this going to be your full time focus?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a business already at the time. I was a wedding photographer, so I was already an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Shooting weddings in Colorado. And that was pretty much, I'd shoot 10 to 15 weddings in a summer, and that would provide income for an entire year. It was very lucrative, that particular profession and the specialty that I was in. But I did want to move on to something else, and this was my kind of exit strategy from wedding photography. And I'll tell you what, wedding photography is way easier than running a CrossFit gym. Way, way, way easier. Running a CrossFit gym.
You're like the second or third person that's told me that this week. I don't want to cut you off. I want to hear the rest of this.
Hard.
But it's funny because I've always, not always, in the last couple of years, I'm like, I really do genuinely think someday that would be a really cool thing to do. But I've been hearing the exact same. Everyone that I know that has done one's like, don't do it.
Yeah, it's so challenging. I mean, at first you're the only employee. You basically what you do is you set yourself up with a really nice job, a really hard job actually. So for the first 6 months, you open and close the gym, and you're there all day, and you're trying to recruit people to do something they don't really want to do. Now, once they get in and they love it, but they've got to get over that hump. Like, is CrossFit safe? Should I be doing this? Does this make sense? And you got to do all of that work, that groundwork for every single person that comes in. And then eventually you need to hire staff and build staff, which I had no skill sets for, but I had to learn how to do that. But it's a tough business. It's really hard to charge enough money to support the rent and your employees and your staff and take in an income. Especially if you just think like, if you open it, they will come, because that's not the case. And that's a whole different business strategy, and location is a huge factor in building a CrossFit gym, because when it comes down to it, you are trying to do a really, really great thing and help people extend their life with this overwhelmingly beneficial functional fitness. But when it comes down to it, it is a gym, and that's what people think of it as. And you have to be in a location where people can just easily get to you. And that's also tends to be really expensive spots, So
sure. Oh yeah.
It's hard.
And it's got to be expensive just in general, like the amount of equipment you need to get started. It's got to be insane.
It is. Yeah. I think we started with almost $100,000 of equipment.
Wow.
Which again, this just, one rower is $1,000. So
I was going to say, I think when I outfitted my gym, can't remember what I spent. Like, every year I've added to it. I mean, it's got to be
Every
over
year. Yeah,
10
it's a
grand
hobby.
easily.
Yeah.
It's a garage.
Yes. I
With
think
all
I have
rogue
10
stuff.
grand. I have 10 grand. So I'm in an RV right now. I live
Oh,
full
nice.
time in an RV, and this is my office. It's the garage portion of the RV.
Okay.
And I have, like, literally on the floor here, there's 4 barbells. There's, a few hundred pounds of weights on the floor here. There's a few hundred pounds outside. I have a bike erg, a ski erg, and a rower behind me. This is a very expensive situation. But this equipment is going to last. It'll last forever. That's the fun part, is that a lot of this equipment, even the weights, came from my first gym. And that was 8 years ago now. I mean, they're brand new looking, and they've been pounded for 8 years. So
Sure. Yeah.
You're buying
Especially
stuff
if you buy
that's going to last
good,
forever.
like Rogue or,
Oh, yeah.
Concept 2. That stuff is just going to last forever.
100%. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So you started a gym. Did it?
Yep.
I guess that obviously that's not a thing anymore. Or you sold it, or how did? So did you? And I'm assuming you opened it, and then did that just kind of excel your the ability to train more, your ability to do more than one workout a day, type of thing?
Yes. Yeah. It's challenging to run a gym and try to be a competitive athlete at the same time, because everything is imbalanced. So just being an entrepreneur creates imbalance in your life generally. It's really hard to be balanced and be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I added, I want to be an elite athlete to that. And so it became, when I say balanced, I mean, it's just not I'm not an 8 to 5 kind of guy. So I would go in, coach classes in the morning, have staff meetings or work with staff and do administrative things throughout the day. In the afternoon, I would tend to train 2 to 3 hours, maybe 4 hours sometimes. Tried to make a run for the games when I was 40. Missed it. Tried to qualify again when I was 41. All while owning and running the gym and doing all the things, thinking that if I train like crazy, I will get to the games. And I missed it again. So actually,
that seems like a bit to me. That's a big, that's a big leap to go from where you were to like, I want to go to the games. Had you had any success, for anyone listening who knows the CrossFit process? Had you had success in the open or made it to regionals or anything?
No, I didn't. So I did the open as a 38-year-old, and I was like top 5. I was maybe 5,000th place or something like that.
Sure.
Out of like 400,000 or 200,000 men. So I was still okay. I did it again.
That's really good. You said 5,000 out of good. How many?
Out of there's almost 200,000 men.
I was gonna say that's like you're in the top. What? Top 2%, 1%?
Something.
There?
Yeah, I did okay.
Yeah.
I did okay those first couple of years, but you need to be in the top 0.0001%, something like that, to qualify. So when I was 40, I almost qualified for the age group qualifier. So if you were the top 200 in your age group, you would go on to the next round of qualifications. And I did that as a 40-year-old and a 41-year-old. And that was just working training really hard. My diet hadn't changed that much. Still, I was eating not amazingly. I was eating a bit better, but I hadn't dedicated myself to eating appropriately.
Sure.
But I was training like crazy. And so I had gotten into the top 100 in my age group.
Wow.
At 40 and at 41. But you need to be top 20.
I imagine at this point, too. Sorry, Jason. I was going to ask. Okay. I imagine at this point, too, you're not having 2 to 3 beers a night.
You think wrong. I was.
Really? Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was impressive what my body could handle. It's really funny because you could be really fit and get top 100, but you needed to the difference between 100th place and 20th place was still a huge gap, an absolute insurmountable gap. I had no idea. After not qualifying at age 41, I really thought, like, as I'm in this young part of this age group was 40 to 44 at the time. 40 would be my best opportunity. That's what I thought, right? I'm the youngest in the age group, and I missed it. 41, here's my next big shot, and I missed it. And I was really frustrated. And I remember thinking, after not making it, I was like, okay, you know what? I hadn't followed a master's program up to that point. I've been doing like the same program that individual athletes, 20-year-olds would do. Sure. And so I just sort of like, I don't know what the right word is. I forfeit. I do not know what I'm doing clearly, so I'm going to follow a master's specific program. So still competitive, but master's specific. So
And what's the big difference? Is it volume?
Decreased volume. Yeah, big decrease in volume. And I just decided I'm going to give this 1 year. I'm going to give it a shot. So I switched to a master's specific program. Was really concerned about the lack of volume, or much less volume, that I was doing. So that was a concern. But I was like, I'm just going to trust it, and we're going to see what happens. And then I also changed my diet. I finally, I actually read a book, and it took me a lot of convincing, but it was a book called Undoctored. It's the same author as a book called Wheat Belly. So that book's a little more well known, but he wrote a follow-up book called Undoctored. William Davis is the author. Really, really good book. I listen to it. I listen to books on audio when I'm working out, and it was a dramatic shift for me. Basically, removing all grain from my diet was the first step. So, beer is grain-based, so that removes beer from my diet. I removed, bread, pasta, bagels, English muffins, every element of grain, oatmeal, even oats, all of that from my diet, and started to eat. I was still eating a good amount of protein, but it removes pizza, it removes chips.
Yeah.
I mean, it really clears the slate. So now I'm having eggs and broccoli and sweet potatoes for breakfast. For lunch, it's chicken and sweet potatoes and vegetables, and dinner is meat and more sweet potatoes or something starchy like that. And so I did that for a year, actually 18 months, strictly with zero grain whatsoever, before I started adding white rice. So now I do that same thing, but add a little bit of white rice to my life, because I just got so tired of sweet potatoes that white rice. And
no cheat meals or anything in here, or is this
not really? No, I mean, in that first year, not a cheat meal, not one, no pizza, nothing. Then I moved. So that was the summer of 2017. I qualified for the games in the spring of 2018, having made those two changes, changing my diet to consist of nutrient-dense, appropriate amount of protein, carbs, and fats in my diet.
Did you use that book mainly to understand the macro breakdowns, or what?
No,
what else
not
did
at
you
all.
use?
No. I had to hire a coach to figure that out, and for me, it was a lot of trial and error with that coach. Now I do that nutrition coaching for my clients.
Awesome.
And I follow kind of the same prescription as we remove all grain. And if their life is so sad because they can't have a bagel sandwich, after a couple of months, we'll add bagel sandwiches back into life. Like, that's okay. But there's no need to live a sad life. I'm pretty much okay without grain. Now, after I win the CrossFit Games, or after I have won, I have indulged in pizza and beer. I have. And it's
should
fine.
Too, right? That's
probably as I should.
Nice little
heck yeah.
Post-success binge.
And I'm not alcohol free now. I just, instead of having beer, I'll have a glass of wine, just because it's not grain based. So that was a big change that I qualified. Less volume, proper diet, qualified in 2018, and went to the games super nervous, just like I am every year. Just didn't want to be terrible, and ended up getting third place. So that was It was it was a very successful experience. And I definitely had pizza. Even after third place, I still indulged in pizza. It was a big deal. Then I did end up selling my gym in 2019, towards the spring of 2019. There was just an opportunity there was another CrossFit gym really close by. There was an opportunity to merge those gyms. And for me to exit, and for his gym to he took over my space, merged the gyms. And then I just got to be a member of that gym, and that was
nice.
It was really nice. And that was before COVID, so I got to escape that before COVID happened, which shut down the gym for like 6 months. That was really challenging, but I didn't have to be there for that. Then at that point, I had switched to training people on nutrition and fitness online, which removed the boundary of working with people in Golden, Colorado. Now I can work with people worldwide, which is what I do now.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. Good for you, man. Really cool. So that makes a ton of sense. So it seems like you just went head first into this, really got immersed into CrossFit. I know it's funny. You actually hit on a couple things that I think even myself, I tend to struggle with sometimes. And it's funny, you might have dealt with this too. I've bounced around to so many different types of programming that I think sometimes it's my lack of consistency that's probably held me back the most. And sometimes it's this. I've had Pat Sherwood on here a couple times, and I got really in the weeds with his whole concept.
Yep.
Love him, love his programming, but I've even told him this. Maybe it's because I'm 30 and I'm still in that like I can do endless volume type mentality, and which isn't necessary. But I do sometimes feel like his programming, I'm like, I just don't feel like this is enough of a workout for today. Like this is one WOD.
Yep.
I feel like I should be doing so much more. So I'm always doing more on top of it. Would love to know how you've thought through that. Like for me, I went from, the first in college, for example, my first, someone introducing me to fitness was old school bodybuilding, the typical, everyone talks about the bro split type mentality throughout the week. That's what I did for a long time. And then not till, end of 2017 did I actually dive into functional fitness and CrossFit. But even now, I feel like a week goes by and I'm like, it's so weird. I don't know. I'm like, the programming, I feel like, am I actually like getting fitter, like aesthetically at all? And I know, to me, it's like having a performance lens is always what I'm trying to remember is more important for long-term health. But obviously you want to look good too when you're doing all these movements. So I'd be super curious from a programming perspective, just any recommendations, or I know you've used some Mayhem stuff and I've delved a little bit into that, but that whole concept, I think, is a lot of people, I know at least my age, that we tend to go back and forth on this whole volume versus intensity conversation.
Yes. And I mean, one shout out to Pat Sherwood. I think he's one of the best orators out there. Like he's very thoughtful and brilliant in his approach on things, and also one of the very humorous. I really, really enjoy him.
And I've gotten to know him. He's honestly just one of the best dudes I've ever met. He's just a genuinely good guy. So shout out to Pat
in person, and yeah, he's great. I wish he was commentating for the Masters athletes at the games with James Grundler, like just to have Pat Sherwood.
So do I.
Talking about that, because he's a Masters athlete, and to have him share his general perspective on life and fitness as a commentator. But anyway, I think you nailed it on the head, actually. That it's not as important what program you follow, is that you follow it consistently. This is something that I coach my guys on. A lot of my clients are aspiring athletes, aspiring games athletes. Like they want to compete at higher levels. And I think there's an element of trying to compete at a higher level as well as become fitter than normal. So I think you're even in that range of like, you want to train for performance and aesthetics. So it is really important to follow a good program, one, and there's lots of good programs out there, but follow it consistently because they live and breathe programming. This is all they think about. I don't program for elite athletes. Like I cannot program better than Mayhem or Hard Work Pays Off or Comp Train or Misfit. And the ones I'm not, or Invictus, I'm not even, whatever ones that people follow, I can't beat them on programming. So for my aspiring athletes, I can talk about, we talk about performance. So performance coaching is what I do with them. So here's all the things outside of training to be the best, but when it comes to actual training, so I do follow Mayhem. Historically, I followed Comp Train, and I was following Comp Train, individual athlete track, when I was 39, 40, 41, and the volume was out of control. Like I was doing so much volume that I did not have the requisite intensity in that volume. And you're always balancing that. Intensity is the magic pill. Intensity is what creates dramatic change in your body. And I think mentally as well. I mean, intensity is the key, but volume is necessary. So you have to find this, like, intensity on back squats. I'm not talking about that. It's that I have to do back squats for volume, but then in a particular Metcon, I am looking for that intensity. I am looking strategically for, is this Fran? Is this a 3-minute workout? Okay, then I am going to accomplish this in 3 minutes. Or is this is this a 25-minute workout? There's a different level of intensity at 25 minutes and then at 3 minutes. So I'm trying to maximize the stimulus of that particular workout while accomplishing all of the volume that I'm going after. So in my early ventures at trying to be competitive, I was following CompTrain, I was consistent, but for me as a 40-year-old, it was too much volume and my intensity sucked. So I would just get through a 10-minute workout. I wasn't outworking anybody. I was just getting the work done. I wasn't outworking anybody, if that makes sense.
That's a good way to frame it. Yeah.
Yeah. Then I switched to CompTrain Masters. When I finally relented, I was like, okay, fine. I will follow a master's program. I went with CompTrain Masters, which was probably 2 to 3 pieces of work per day, all in one session. So it might be strength, Olympic lifting, and then metabolic conditioning, or some sort of variant of that. And that decrease in volume kept me getting stronger. So I still was getting stronger, but my intensity was much higher. And actually for me, it was like, okay, if I'm only doing this much for training today, I'm going to make it hurt. Like, you know, this is going to hurt. And again, I'm paying attention to my body. I'm not on a day that I'm just dead. I know you're wearing a Whoop. I wear Whoop. If I wake up in the red, I'm probably not going to try to kill myself today, but I'm still going to work hard. So there was that, and that decrease in volume made my training sessions much more focused. I was very focused, and then that turned out I did really well at the games. With CompTrain Masters in 2018, I got third place. 2019, I won the games following CompTrain Masters. In 2020, I just decided to make a switch. I wanted to try something else, but I didn't try like a dozen programs. I tried Mayhem for a week, and I was like, I like it. I'll just do this.
Okay.
And what Mayhem did for me was it increased the volume probably by 25 to 30%, which is a good bump. I mean, it's a good bump in volume, but it broke up most days into 2 sessions. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, it was 2 sessions. The first session would be, for the most part, similar to what I would do with CompTrain. It'd be, you know, maybe a strength piece, a lifting, Olympic lifting piece, maybe a Metcon, some sort of variant of that. And the second piece would either be just another metabolic conditioning, or maybe 45 minutes of zone 2 work. And I really, really liked that additional session. And it was, the second session is always a session where I don't have to warm up for like 45 minutes, because I'm not going to be snatching heavy during the second. The second session is going to be something that requires a moderate warm up, like, 15, 20 minute warm up, get the work done, and I'm done. And that was something I really, really enjoyed. Really enjoyed that. So it increased my volume, but it was in a second session, so I could really fuel, train, refuel, train, eat dinner, go to bed, rinse and repeat every day. Yeah. And then for Mayhem, and same with CompTrain, they would increase the volume as we got closer to the games. But once I got through semifinals over the past 2 years, and now it's this 6-week training to the games, the volume really does increase to, and I shared a couple of videos on YouTube about the volume for games training, which is not normal volume. It's not, I preach all the time, train like you're 40, not like you're 20. Train like you're 30, not like you're 20. I think 30 is different than 20. 40 is different than 30, which is different than 20. So train your age. But if you qualify for the games and you have this 6-week sort of ramp up period to be at your absolute peak performance, you're riding the line of volume, intensity, injury, overtraining, overworking. You're right on this fine line, trying not to overdo it, but do as absolutely much as you can. I mean, my caloric intake goes from 3,400 calories a day through regular training season to 4,500 calories a day during games training season, and I'm still losing weight during games training season, because it's that much volume, and it's so hard to get that much food in without eating just candy bars all day, or Doritos, or going back to beer, which I'm not doing at any of the time. So
you're trying to fuel with good energy too.
Yeah, with good energy. I'm trying to fuel well with nutrient dense, so my body can stay healthy through this process. But I think, to answer your question, that was a long answer to my experience with volume and intensity. But it is finding something, trusting that process, trusting that program. If you trust it, you'll be good. You'll be good to go. And I only have experience with Comp Train and Mayhem, and they were both very good, very well-rounded programs for me, without any specific emphasis. There wasn't any overemphasis on lifting or overemphasis on gymnastics. They were both just really well-rounded. I can't speak to the other ones. I'm sure they're all good. I mean, I did some monster mashups from Linchpin years and years ago because they were just like, okay, Pat Sherwood threw this gauntlet out there. Let's try it. All right, let's do this on a Monday. And they're just soul crushing. But yeah, I think if you find a program, sticking with it, and then ultimately, if you trust it, that's all you get to do. There's no extra. And that's what I've done over the. I haven't deviated for years. No deviation.
Okay, no, that's smart too. I've been doing. I started this. I know a guy he's more in like the powerlifting space, but he started doing. I ran a marathon back in 2017. Totally destroyed my knees and I couldn't really. I mean, I could run, but it was just like painful to run. But I got into this whole thing with body weight lunges, and basically every day at first it was 1 lap around a track, just lunging body weight, and it's incredible how much cardio that is. And then it turned into 2.
Deadly. Yes,
I've been doing it every day for almost 1,000 days in a row. So that's like the end of my workout. But I'm getting to the point now where I'm like, maybe I should just. If I hit 1,000 days, that's probably a nice, like, okay, that was a long enough streak. Now maybe it's time to switch to just doing deep CrossFit, going into a plan a little more. Because I feel like I tend to do, I tend to either like tweak some things if I'm going to run short on time because I got to get the lunges done versus what you're saying, which is just go like all in on whatever program you are. And just, that's it. Do that.
This is it.
There's a reason they're programming that.
There is a reason they're programming that. And like, I didn't trust Zone 2 training for a while. And so if you're familiar with Zone 2, it's barely doing anything. I cannot run or jog in Zone 2. My heart rate goes too high. So I have to walk fast in order to do that kind of Zone 2 work. Or like on a Concept 2 bike, Zone 2 for me is under 120 beats a minute. So I have to be really careful and take a nice leisurely pace. But Zone 2 training does build long-term cardiovascular health, endurance, makes you, it really helps when you're doing aerobic work at higher levels. But it's very challenging for me to work at such low capacity. Like, I'm used to hurting. But when it's like 45 minutes of Zone 2 on the ski erg, I mean, that is literally just, I could just not even use a ski erg and just do body, just pretend like I'm using a ski erg and I'm just about hitting Zone 2. But again, it goes back to these guys know what they're doing. And with Mayhem, for me, Chris Hinshaw does all of the aerobic work. So he is the master of aerobic capacity. When that guy says, we're doing Zone 2 work today on a Wednesday, and on a Thursday, which is a recovery day, and we're doing active sprints on the bike. Whatever he says, I know it's a recovery day, and my heart rate is 190 beats a minute on recovery day. Whatever whatever Chris Hinshaw says that day, that's what I'm doing. And that's, I think that's important. Also, I have to applaud you on 1,000 days of lunge walking. I can't think of any more challenging task. And that's because lunge walks are a major weakness for me. Body weight lunge walks, as I was training for the games, I had to do heavy front rack lunges, heavy overhead walking lunges. And it is just, I don't know. I think Mayhem thought we were definitely going to be lunging at the games because I did more walking lunges in 6 weeks with heavy, heavy loads than I've ever done in my life, ever.
Oh, and that's interesting.
I was ready. Like, if there was walking lunges at the games, I was ready to do 185-pound single arm walking lunges with the other arm tied behind my back. Whatever they were bringing, I was ready for that. And then we didn't do one walking lunge, but to do walking lunges around a track, I actually have in one of my programs. I have programs like 12-week programs that help people get in shape.
Nice.
But one of them is 800 meters of walking lunges at a track.
It's amazing.
It is destructive. It is. It's a tough one. And it's amazing. And what you're building with those walking lunges, that unilateral ability is just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It makes me like my brain is like, I wonder if I should be doing some walking lunges.
It's fun to talk about. The guy I got it from, his name's Corey Gregory. He started a supplement company called Muscle Farm back in the day, and he does a lot of like old school bodybuilding and powerlifting. But he kind of did the same thing. Like he hated running, but he still wanted to build his glutes, his hamstrings. And for me, what it did is it fixed all of my knee problems. So I ran the New York Marathon in 2017. And honestly, didn't know what the hell I was doing. Destroyed my knees. Horrible time. It was a disaster. Been lunging ever since, on and off. But the last 3 years, it's been every day. I mean, every day, almost for 3 straight years. And I decided for some dumb reason I want to run the Chicago Marathon this fall. So, but what I'm doing is I wanted to test, doing lunges for that long, can it translate into other parts of my fitness? And it's been interesting. I'm already building up. I did my like a 10-mile run last weekend, and at the end maybe a little sore. But I'm telling you, Jason, it's crazy how much it's translated into squat strength, just running. I would say like stability. Like I feel just stronger, and I don't feel like I'm gonna get hurt this time. Just from doing body weight lunges. And then my head goes crazy of like, can I do that with like push-ups or other body weight things?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I think it can build a lot of like baseline strength that then you can add weight on later on and help with longevity.
That's actually how we're supposed to do it. We're actually supposed to start with mastering the body weight movements, that's literally what gymnastics is. It's moving your body in all kinds of ways. That is the foundation that should be laid solidly before we tack on any external weight.
Right. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, if you had somebody that could do, 400, 800 feet or meters of walking lunges before they ever back squatted, you've probably built a bulletproof human, which is at least for a bulletproof squatter.
Exactly. Right.
Yes, brilliant. And I'm doing a half. I did a half Ironman last year after the games.
I saw you said you were signing up for another one.
Yes, signing up for another one because I had so much fun last year. Taking a break. So if I do this 6-week training up to the games, I inevitably have some weird aches and pains that it started to develop with that amount of volume. Pretty standard. Every year I sort of have something that starts to bother me. Like last year I had some serious tendonitis in my elbows. That went away by taking 6 weeks off, doing a different style of training, accomplishing a half Ironman, and then going back into CrossFit. That's what I'm going to do again this year. My body feels good. Everything feels pretty good. I had a little bit of a hip thing, but it's pretty healed now. Now I can't not do anything. Last year I just trained for the triathlon. My brain is not quite that good at only doing one thing like that. So this year I'm following Mayhem Bodybuilding. It's a specific track in Mayhem. So bodybuilding is just going to keep muscle mass intact, keep me doing some full ranges of motion. And Mayhem Bodybuilding is not... It's very functional bodybuilding. We've got squats, deadlifts, bench, a lot of dumbbell work, but there are curls, which is super foreign for me to be doing barbell
for
curls.
For CrossFit people, that's like not a thing anyone does.
No, nothing. But I did have strict pull-ups. So it's keeping my body a little bit more engaged because I'm not quite as beat up this year as I was last year. And at the same time, like yesterday, I did an open water swim in a lake that's just down the road here. Sketchy lake in Ohio. And last week we were in Indiana. We were up near Michigan City, up near Lake Michigan. So I swam in Lake Michigan, which was delightfully cool. So I wore a wetsuit. It was great. I really enjoyed this little off-season, different style of training. I applaud the ability. The most painful part of the triathlon for me was the run. All of my training, I love training the run, but once I got to the run in my triathlon, the first 8-9 miles were great. The last 4 miles were really, really painful. It just felt bone on bone. Like everything was just done. To take that distance, even though I had done some things before that, swimming and biking, but to take that distance, somehow double that and spend 4 hours running. Yeah. Yow. Ouch.
It's long. It's long.
It is long, but the accomplishment you feel afterwards, even though you don't really feel that great immediately afterwards. I know for me, I did not feel like a champ. I felt like a guy that completed something that wanted to go die. That's basically just wanted to go die. Everything wanted to cramp up. I thought that night I was just going to go eat all the food. I had no appetite whatsoever. right? The next
Yeah.
day,
You
the
feel
next
like
day I
shit.
had probably
Yeah.
8,000 calories worth of everything. I ate everything the next day, but the day of,
Yeah.
that's something.
It's weird. It's like I think any of those like endurance races, what I think is interesting, this is my 2 cents. The CrossFit is by far the best form of training for longevity, for overall health. I think it's interesting. I'm excited to do this race because I'm excited to see what CrossFit training, how it can translate into the
Yes.
mental side of a lot of it
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
I feel like all like people that do CrossFit, it's whether it's a 3-minute Fran or a 40, whatever. The length and time obviously changes constantly. So we're all good. I think about like to your point earlier of just like fighting for points. You're like willing to
Yes.
lay on the ground after you're done and die. I know even already I've felt through training just in the early couple weeks. It's so much more mental, like because
Yes.
by the end of it, your body's going to be falling apart. Like physically,
Yes.
I don't think I can probably be prepared enough. I don't think anyone truly can. You're going to fall
Right.
apart. It's like, can you keep it here?
Yeah.
It almost sounds. I don't even know what the right word is. It sounds messed up that you want to go sign up to do that, but it is
Yes.
kind of there is something just about competing and like pushing your body to a limit you don't know if it can do.
I think that's it. I think that's really it. It's after I finished the half Ironman, I was like, man, I'm probably gonna have to try a full Ironman sometime because now I've tasted it. I've tasted the pain, and I want more. That's a whole different thing. You cannot. That's a 9-month, 12-month process. So that is not in the cards right now. But no, I do agree. I think when you're doing something like a marathon or almost any distance on a triathlon, or CrossFit, you are signing up to do something that is outside of your comfort zone completely. And if it's a long endurance race, I mean, the ultra kind of stuff,
Those
touches
guys are
this.
nuts.
You're pushing your body beyond anything that it can imagine, and it is 100% mental. I remember the last like 2-3 miles of last year's Ironman. It was everything to not stop. My whole goal was just never stop. Now I allowed myself to get water, to get electrolytes and flat Coca-Cola. This is just their thing. Flat Coca-Cola. At triathlons, they have all the stations have like Coke.
Oh,
and I
interesting.
haven't drank Coca-Cola in years and years. But once I got on that run and I had that first drink of a warm flat Coke, it was pure magic. It was like I was like, I can run forever from here.
All this energy.
Oh my god! It was a dopamine hit like nothing else. It was truly unbelievable. But about every 1.5 to 2 miles, there was a drink station. So I would allow myself to slow down and walk, get those going, and immediately start running. But then that last 2 miles, there was nothing, and it was every ounce of grit in my brain to not stop and walk. Literally, but I had no choice. You know when you make that deal with yourself, you cannot walk. You won't. And so you're just going, and everything in you wants to walk, but your brain is never going to allow that, ever.
Yeah.
To the point where once I got to the finish line, I was so stiff. My body was so angry. They're like, I crossed the line, and then I just sort of coasted for like 20 feet because there's no just stop. You've been running. No, you sort of come in for a landing and you're coasting past. And I finally stopped. The girl handed me like a bottle of water and I dropped it and I just looked down at the floor like, I can't get that. I can't.
You're like, I'm not picking that up.
Yeah, I can't get that bottle of water. It was really nice. She picked it up and handed it to me. I was like, well, thank you. But the other thing that, if you could imagine this, you're at the end of your marathon, you're in absolute agony. I was at the end of the triathlon in absolute agony. A buddy of mine that had actually roped me into doing the triathlon, he got hurt. So he couldn't do the run. He swam and biked and just waited for me to finish the run. So he saw me with 400 meters to go or so. He came out to jog it in with me. So he's jogging right next to me. He's like, Jason, hey, I'm so proud of you, man. Just once you get across that line, they've got pancakes, they've got sausage. It's going to be, I'm like, dude, you can't talk about that right now. Like, I'm going to throw up. There is nothing I want less than pancakes and sausage right now. I don't even want water. I'm just so dead. But literally he was, I was like, thank you, Chris. This is great. But dude, don't talk. I can't talk about food. And, I did not have pancakes and sausage there. Like I was at the end of myself and there was no appetite whatsoever. Really until the next day. I tried that night. I had a beer and I think 1 or 2 like chicken wings. Just nothing.
That
Nothing
didn't
sounded
work.
good. Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? It's just like your
So
body.
weird.
I think your body is just like in this fight or flight mode. It doesn't know what the
Yes.
hell's going on, and
Yes.
you're using every ounce of everything you have, and then
You-
I think it's hard for your body to then realize it's over or something.
Right.
Because I remember that. 'Cause
Yeah.
it felt like your body like was still fighting everything
Ugh.
even hours after.
It was a battle. I remember like driving from the race to a grocery store to get some fruit, just some fruit in my system, and just walking into the grocery store to the Whole Foods to grab some raspberries was max effort. I was walking like a 95-year-old decrepit old man, and like I just wanted to have a sign on me that said, I just killed myself. This is me. I mean, I'm caked in salt and dust, but yeah, I got raspberries
wild.
thinking these raspberries are gonna be so good. Got into the car, I'm like, ugh, these are awful, but I have to eat something. That's not my favorite thing. I love raspberries. Nothing, but
Didn't work
yeah, the
still.
body is in this terrible spot at that point. But a good night's sleep in the next morning is like, okay, hey, I'm ready to go to the store and buy a half a gallon of ice cream, and
Yep.
I want pizza for lunch, and I think I'm gonna eat a bag of chips. Like every calorie
yeah.
that I could consume, it didn't matter its nutritional value. My body was craving everything, so I allowed myself a day of complete gluttony, and
That's
then
awesome.
and then back at it.
Yeah, hell yeah. No, you got to. I mean, after something like that, that's how would you rank? And I know we're getting short on time.
Yeah.
How would you rank the pain of finishing the CrossFit Games versus the pain of, let's say, like a triathlon? Are they totally different things?
Yeah, totally different. The triathlon was way more painful in its duration. The swim was great. I really enjoyed the swim. That was a test of courage for me. So I got through that. I was ecstatic after finishing a 1.2 mile swim, without help, without assistance. It felt great. Got on the bike, and the bike was great for like 25 miles. And then the next 20, 30 miles, terrible. And then the run, 9 miles, great. And then like 4 miles of awfulness. So just the duration of the pain was high. I would say the pain was like, on a scale of 1 to 10, the pain is a 7 to an 8 to a 9 in those really tough times in the triathlon. Now, on the CrossFit Games side of things, there were 2 individual events. Both of them were out on the field. The one was the first event where we had long running, heavy dumbbell push press, rope climbs. That was very, very painful. And there was another event that had wall balls, big sandbag carries, and sled pushes. That was pain level 10. Like pain level, I was pushing the sled to finish this one event. You've got 100 yards to push this sled. And you're just getting to this lactic threshold where you're pushing, like, let me get to 20 steps, which is only like 15 yards. Like 20 steps. And you get there and you stand up, and the pain shooting through your legs is so extreme. And I'm in the lead at this point. So I'm standing up in absolute agony, and I look up and I can see on the big jumbotron, it's just me in agony. I'm the guy I'm looking at. I'm like, okay,
hilarious.
I got to get back to work, and I just pound like 20 more steps until the absolute shock of pain is going through my physical body. So the games has these spikes where you hit level 10 in pain multiple times in a single workout. But yeah, the triathlon is just this, like, you just stay at a 9 for the last couple miles, like 15 minutes at 9, versus the games where you spike at 10 and like you can't move. You're really just standing there until you see yourself on the jumbotron, and you're like, well, this is not what I want to present to the world. So you just get back to work.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's wild, and I definitely can see that. It's amazing you guys were able to recover and then like go back hours later and crush another one. That's always been amazing.
There's some insider tips on that. It's recovery between events is absolutely key. That may be another podcast, but we could talk for an hour on that topic, how to recover between excruciating events in order to maximize your output in the next event. I mean, there's a whole strategy to that, and it's essential. It's essential. You have to perform at maximal, and the more events, the better for me, because I have done really well at being able to recover and then present myself with max effort again and again and again. I think that's been one of the biggest factors for my success, is that I get better through the weekend. I get better, I get stronger generally, and I may have a slow start. I've always had a slow start at the games, and then I just get better, and then just crush some events, remove all hope.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Love that.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. We definitely should do an episode 2 where we dive into that, because I think that would be wild to talk through.
It would be good, really good.
As we get to the end here, there's a few questions I always love to ask everyone that comes on, because I'm sure you're going to have lots of cool answers to this. The first one is just, and you mentioned one, but would love to know if that's the one or if there's another one. Just a book, a source of knowledge, so whether it's podcast, book, journal, anything for the audience today that you would recommend them checking out.
Yeah. I mean, I do like Undoctored. It's a great book about taking charge of your own health. We generally, as a society, we've leaned into the medical system to take care of us, to provide guidance for us, and there's just a lot of it that's outdated. My doctor doesn't know more than me about nutrition. For example, the food pyramid, the government food pyramid, is just incorrect, highly incorrect. So Undoctored is really that idea that you are in charge of your health, and it's up to you to take charge of it. And there's tons of resources and tools in that book where you can I haven't, but you can get blood drawn, your own blood drawn, and have your own tests done. Here's the formula to determine how your body is doing, and here's where to get this blood drawn or have this tested or this tested. You can do all that stuff without having to go to a doctor. Not that you shouldn't go to the doctor. You should go do all the things you're supposed to do, but you have that power. So it was very empowering. And as far as podcasts, I consume podcasts through all of my training. I'm always listening to podcasts and absolutely love them. And I do love listening to the Tim Ferriss podcast. I think there's a lot of optimizations in competition and sports that can be drawn from a lot of his guests. They're really long form. Some of them totally not interested in. Other ones are just really good. So I always need nice long form things to listen to. So Shane, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to a lot of your old episodes, especially the Pat Sherwood episodes, because that'll be super entertaining while I'm killing myself in workouts. Or
I was going to say,
10-mile
that's
training
a good
runs.
one. I've had Marcus Philly on here.
Oh, yeah.
He's another one we didn't get a chance to talk about, but I've actually been doing some of his programming too. And this is interesting because his is all about functional movements, but feeling good after. So it's a lot of like tempo work. And honestly, I get done and I feel like I have a pump, and I did functional movements, but I don't feel beat up. So it's a little bit different.
You have to be so good at counting. Counting your sets, your reps, and your tempos. Like, you will be a mathematician and be built, like, your internal clock will be refined.
100%.
Doing some of his work, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then I had Matt on here too, Matt Frazier. So he's a good one.
Yes.
Good episode. He just talks
awesome.
about all kinds of stuff. Obviously he's the GOAT.
He is the GOAT.
So that's awesome. Definitely, I'm gonna actually buy that book right after this. So thank you for that. The next one is, so for you, you're obviously doing coaching. Obviously, you're now a professional athlete, and you have been for a while. You're doing lots of different things. For everyone listening, what do you use as a tool just to get shit done? Are you a pen and paper kind of guy? Do you use some sort of app? Are you a calendar? Like whatever your tool is to just like organize your life and get everything done. What do you use?
I've dabbled in multiple things. I've really enjoyed pen and paper stuff. I used a book called The Best Self Journal for a couple of years. Probably one of my favorite things to use. It's a journal. I write the 3 things I want to accomplish that day. Got my schedule on there. But I am such a digital human being, so digital, that over the past few months I've switched over to using Evernote. Which is literally, in my mind, Evernote is like an external hard drive, an external RAM. I cannot keep everything in my head, so I live off my calendar and Evernote. So every thought, every meeting I have, everything goes into Evernote as a big, giant pile of sticky notes. And then I go in there and organize that, and I create to-dos with that.
Love it.
And the thing I like about that is that I've got my phone with me all the time, iPad, computer, whatever I'm using, Evernote is just kind of there. So I've always been a fan. I've stepped away from it to go pen and paper, which is the most aesthetically pleasing. Yeah. But not as functional as just having a to-do list in Evernote and having Evernote capture every thought that I ever have.
I used to use Evernote religiously. I should go back and check it out. I haven't used it in a long time. And I've been trying to do pen and paper. It's funny. I've had like the exact same workflow you have because I've used this thing called a full focus planner for a long time. Same exact thing. There's something about like three big things that are building towards the goals you're going for that's just helpful. But then I'm always sprinkling in digital stuff too because inevitably there's something about writing things down, but it's not when you have a million things going on. I'm struggling to connect the digital simplicity of just having everything in one place versus writing it down and I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you.
I agree.
They're both good.
It's a good question. It's really good. And I so much prefer the aesthetics of pen and paper. I just can't. You're right. There's too much content that I end up having to capture and then organize, which is where Evernote. If you haven't been back to Evernote, the interface is. It just gets better and better.
Okay.
I hadn't used it for years, and I just saw it a couple of months ago, and I was like, okay, let me just try it again. Oh, sure. Dang it, it's really good. Why haven't I been using this the whole time? So it's good, but it can also be customized to use it in so many ways. So I still every day have my 3 important things I'm doing today. Like if I accomplish these three things, my day is accomplished. And then I have this like litany of to-dos, like order this on Amazon or all these little things. Sure. But the 3 big things are the things that have to get done to move me more towards the specific outcome in life.
I really, really, really like that. I know it's funny when I keep pointing over here because my full focus planner is behind the computer. But I noticed well, actually, I'll give you a quick story. It's funny. I always wanted to start something. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and when I got out of school, I was in finance. Long story short, I tried little things, but just never got traction. Then during the pandemic, between the podcast and another business that me and my business partner today that I spend my full time on, we started. I genuinely go back to that, and I think that's the one tool that helped me go from a concept to laying specific, tangible daily activities that build toward the goal, and doing that consecutively for like an entire year is what I think genuinely allowed me to jump from like the corporate world to working for myself. So sometimes I'm like, I don't want to run too far away from it because I do genuinely think there's so much value in stopping for 10 or 15 minutes while I'm having my coffee. Like what needs to get done, what feels important, but maybe can wait. And like, what are 3 major things that are going to move the business forward, fitness forward, family forward, all that stuff. I'm with you. The big 3 thing is huge.
Huge. And I think when I more reflect on it, I think both can be okay. I think that pen and paper to slow down, to create that acute focus, and then also that repository of Evernote that is, here's all the things, but here's what today is. And I could see my desk is this wide. And so I could have Evernote on my iPad right here, and I could have my open notebook right here with like the handwritten components there that are just like taking a look at yesterday. And over time, you see this progress. It's so tangible. Yes. So I don't know. I'll probably have to order a notebook now. I'm probably going to have to go back just talking about
I'll send you the one I use just if you're interested. I
love that.
It sounds very similar to the one you were using. I'm sure the concepts are the same. I think what's helped me, and I love that because I'm the same way. Me and my business partner have we use like the Google Workspace world for everything. We're both remote, so it's helpful to everything's there, and then it's helpful to go through it and like kind of boil the ocean into my notebook. And I feel,
Ooh, I like that.
There's something at the end of the day too. I think with like, even if to your point, you get 3 big things done. It's like, today was successful, even if it's not like the biggest task in the world. If it's important, but you got it done.
Exactly.
No one's figured it out, but I think there's like a little tip like that. I'm gonna check out Evernote. The last question, and this is the most important, is just for folks listening. Obviously, Jason has told a really cool story today. How can people find you? How can they get involved with your coaching and all the things that you offer, and just in general from a social media perspective, how can people find you?
Well, thankfully, Jason Grubb has become a pretty searched Google term. So Googling Jason Grubb, you're going to find almost everything. But it's Jason Grubb, all one word, _fitness is Instagram. JasonGrubb.com is my website. From there, the About page has links to everything. Search Jason Grubb on YouTube, and you'll find me. But those are really my 3 big channels. Instagram, the website, and YouTube. A lot of a lot of good content on YouTube that has really exploded over the past couple of months. That one video, I think probably the one you stumbled on, it is almost at 600,000 views, and it
wow, congratulations,
literally
that's huge.
Recorded with a GoPro in an RV park in South Dakota, and it was just my story. Just decided to share my story, which needs to be updated. Man. Yeah, and it's consistency has been really good on across all those channels, and if anybody wants to connect with me in my Instagram profile, my phone number is there. It says text me, seriously. I get texts all the time from people just saying hi, and I appreciate that. So if you want to reach me, that is my direct line for as long as that's sustainable.
That is amazing, Jason.
Yeah.
I mean, that alone is something that next to no one does. So very, very cool.
Yep.
And I'll add all this to the show notes. So anyone listening can also go to the show notes and click on all this stuff, and it'll all be there. Jason, one last question, actually, as I'm feeling my hand. This is a funny last question. Any tips to avoid this? I was doing muscle ups yesterday, and I'm definitely not good at them, but I'm finally getting it so I can do like 3, maybe 4 consecutively, which to me has been a huge win. Yep. But I wear grips. I have chalk. I don't know. But yesterday I looked down halfway through Angie, which is like not a long workout, just an intense one. And I was like, it was like, this is probably the worst rip I've ever had. It's not horrible, but it's...
Yeah, that's a rough one.
Yeah. Any tips on just not ripping?
Wear better grips. Really, it is better grips. And I have a video on YouTube on grips, so you could Google that out. And it's not only having good grips. So Victory or Bear Complex, those are both really good grips. But the way that you have those grips, you literally want your palm on the bar, like pinching at about your thumb. Like I'm never holding onto the bar there. It's always way, way up. So the grip is bearing almost all of my weight. It's pulling my wrist. The grip is really
so
pulling.
I'm probably I'm actually gripping too much of my hand.
Yeah. Too much of your hand. You're up there like this. We want the grips to flap over, and you are in a false grip. And that's going to shorten the range of motion for pull-ups. For muscle-ups, it's also keeping that range nice and short, and you are locked in there. Your body weight is pressing the grip between your hand and the bar. It's locked in there, so all of the weight is being borne by your wrist. It's pulling on your wrist as opposed to your grip or your hands doing most of that work. So
got
for
it.
me,
that's crazy how small of a difference that is. But that I can totally visualize why that's so different on my hands.
Yep, it's going to save your hands. Now, it depends on the barbell or the bar you're using. If it's a nice grippy bar, you'll stay on there for days. If it's a really slippery bar, you'll have to re-grip and get your hands up there quite frequently. But that's the key. Lots of chalk. In my grip video, I also have another recipe for making even a slippery bar really grippy with chalk and sugar, believe it or not.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, watch that. There's a little insider tip on that. Who came up to me? Oh, Brett Fikowski came up to me at the games. He was like, Jason. I was like, Brent Fikowski. He came and I was like, Brent. He's like, hey, and it's always funny because I have this shirt on. It says Grubb, right? But when someone comes up and says Jason, like they know me outside somehow. And so Brent comes up, he's like, Jason, hey, I watched your grip video. That sugar water trick, like that's huge. I'm like, I know it is, right?
That's
so
hilarious.
I'm not going to tell you.
How cool.
You have to go out and find it now. Yeah, you got to go out and find it.
Now I'm extremely intrigued because I'm like crying today trying to use any sort of weight in the gym.
It's terrible. It's
not good.
And in training, these hands have to be okay. Like I deadlift with grips, not because I'm weak. It's just because I want these hands to be fresh and ready for whatever volume they need. I don't want to be doing push-ups and thinking about a rip on my hand. I mean,
that's what I did today. I was doing push-ups and I'm like, don't get this on too much on the ground.
Yeah, you'll try to like
I'm like try to do this.
Cup your hand. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Exactly. That is too cool, man. Well, thanks for the tip, and I will definitely check that out. But first and foremost, Jason, thank you for the time. I really appreciate it. It was great to meet you. Great to have you on the show, and really looking forward to seeing your future success. And hopefully we can see you make it 4 in a row.
That's the plan.
Love it, man. Awesome.
Thanks, Shane.
Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. And thanks for coming on.
You got it.